Good evening. Shabbat Shalom. You notice that lately we've been inviting members of the shul in to join us by lighting candles, and I'm still asking people, and other people have volunteered to do so by recording and just send me a short video which we'll incorporate into the service. But this evening, I feel the need to bring a little bit of light into my space, into our shared space. There's great darkness in Israel right now, and I'm scared, as I think many of us are. And so by striking a match, and just for about half a second feeling that I'm in a bit of control of the difference between light and dark, I reassure myself until the flame of the match is extinguished. But I'm left holding on to the candles here on the bima and perhaps in your home as well. Please rise and join me. Baruch Atorno Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'neshel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who's commanded us to be holy by bringing in the light of Shabbat. You're welcome to be seated, and we'll begin with Shalom Aleichem. In the Siddur, it's on page number 5, and if you have a Siddur or not, and you just feel like singing along, please lend your voices to mine. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu ni l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The angels are leaving, but I feel a need to have angels remain with us for just a bit longer, which is why I've selected this next song by Rabbi Sherwin entitled I Am Your Angel to welcome us into the Kabbalat Shabbat service. Rabbi Sherwin sings, I am your angel, and I hope you sense an angel still close at hand for you.
I can listen to your stories. You make me laugh for hours on end. Open up a window and let me fly through. Please let me in. I can look into your soul. If you let me, I'll help make you whole. We both know it's for a very brief time. Let me open this place and this time, but I know it's yours and mine. Let's take flight. You bring me down a notch or two in your knowing gaze. I'm most shy, though I'm looking deep inside of me. I still can't answer why. I am your angel, coming to the shelter of my wings. We could be so many things, you and I. I am your angel, even though the halo's slipping fast. We know this time can't last, you and I. Be my lover, be my friend, as we seek the journey's end. I am your angel, there's no danger, let me in. I am your angel, let me embrace you with my wings. We'll find many songs to sing, you and I. Let me be your angel, let me enfold you in the clouds. We'll soar high above the crowds, you and I.
On page 11. L'chu neranena l'Adonai, nari aletzor yishenu, nekadma fanav b'todah, bizmirot nari alo. Nekadma fanav b'todah, bizmirot nari alo. Ki el gadol Adonai, umelech gadol al kol Elohim, asher biyado mekarei haaretz, v'to'afot harim lo. Come then, let us bow and kneel, let us bend our knees in the presence of Adonai, who formed us. For Adonai is our God, and we are God's flock, sheep in God's caring hands. And the psalm is very presumptuous. It states matter-of-factly that every single one of us individually and also as a group, every one of us has been touched by God's own creative hand, and every one of us throughout the entire length of his or her life is being tended by God as if God was and is a private shepherd. And that's how we leave Friday afternoon behind and enter a special time known as Shabbat. And that's how I'm hoping to understand this experience as we see our people in Israel in grave danger. And we're calling out to God, God, remember what's written in the Psalms, the Psalm for Erev Shabbat, that you are the private caregiver and shepherd tending every single member of Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel. And that's why we sing aloud, to make our voices heard. Arbim shakut k'dov ramar tolev avhem v'hem lo yidrachai asher nishbati vapi im yavon el menuchachi. On page 14 on the English side, prior to the next song of Love Multiplies, on the English side first. Bow to Adonai in the glory of this holy place. Tremble before God's presence, all who dwell on earth. Announce among the nations, Adonai reigns. The land is firm. The land will not be moved. Peoples will be truthfully judged. The heavens shall be glad and the earth rejoice. The sea and its fullness will roar. The meadows and all that grows in them exult. Even the trees of the forest shall sing praise as Adonai comes to judge the earth, judging lands with righteousness and peoples with divine truth. God is present for all. And I've chosen this next piece, Love Multiplies by Beth Schaefer, because as many are, I'm struggling. And I see Arabs and Jews fighting. And the extent of the fighting, the extensiveness of the fighting has gone far beyond what we've seen before. And of course, I'm reminded when we study Tanakh, the Bible, that we're kin. Love Multiplies by Beth Schaefer. It's a hope and it's a prayer.
Abraham was a desperate man, longing for a son. To pass along the word of God was his destiny. Two were born and one was scorned, to the desert he would run. Two fathers of two nations from one family. You're okay in your father's eyes. Love doesn't divide, love multiplies. You're okay in your mother's eyes. Love doesn't divide, love multiplies. Families fall and families rise. Love doesn't divide, love multiplies. Love your God and you'll be wise. Love doesn't divide, love multiplies. The little town's bound to grow, destined to be more. Every year another church would claim its place on the road. And each Sabbath day the folks would pray behind their bolted doors, and the air would fill with notes of hope, only who would know. You're okay in your neighbor's eyes. Love doesn't divide, love multiplies. And you're okay in the stranger's eyes. Love doesn't divide, love multiplies. Cities fall and cities rise. Love doesn't divide, love multiplies. Love your God and you'll be wise. Love doesn't divide, love multiplies. To her, but she knows another baby will be coming soon. This one-on-one and love affair will have to end for sure. How could her full heart come up with any more room? You're okay in your daughter's eyes. Love doesn't divide, love multiplies. Keep on going and claim your prize. Love doesn't divide, love multiplies. Love your God and you'll be wise. Love doesn't divide, love multiplies.
love multiplies. And the next psalm on page 21 is Mizmor David, and then I was singing it in a more traditional melody, a melody that I think many people have grown up with. This psalm stands out because, to my knowledge, it's the only psalm in the Bible that contains God's name 18 times. 18 times. That's the number Chai, the number of life. And as we're singing this psalm, I want you to take hold of what it means for you as an individual to have the power to call out and say, God, you are the God of life. The life of all, for everyone and everything. The life of the beyond, not just the life of me. Not just the life of somebody in a small, confined space, but the life of everything. And that's a Jewish idea going back 3,000 years. Mizmor leDavid, Havul Adonai Pnei Elim, Havul Adonai Kavod Vos, Havul Adonai Kavod Shemo, Hishtachavul Adonai Bahadrat Kodesh, Kol Adonai Al Hamoyim, El HaKavod Hirim, Adonai Al Maim Rabim. Kol Adonai ba'koach, Kol Adonai behadar, Kol Adonai shaver arazim, Vaishaber Adonai et arzei halvanon, Vayarkidem kmo egel Lebanon v'siryon kmo v'nreimim, Kol Adonai chotzei l'havot eish, Kol Adonai Yachil Midbar, Yachil Adonai Midbar Kadesh, Kol Adonai Yachol El Ayalot, Vayechesof Ya'arot, Uvehechalo Kulo Amer Kavod, Adonai Lamabul Yashav Yeshev Adonai Melech Leolam, Adonai Oz Liamo Yitain, Adonai Yevarech et Amo Vashalom. Adonai Oz Liamo Yitain. God gives strength to the people of Israel. Adonai Yevarech et Amo Vashalom. God blesses God's own people with shalom, with peace. Strength and peace. And that brings us into L'Charudi on page 23 and on page 25, the first two and last two stanzas. Lecha dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Hishmiyanu el hamyuchad, Adonai echad u'shmo echad, l'shem otif eret velit hila, lecha dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'necha, Ki mekor habracha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machashava techila, lecha dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikabela. Yamin usmol tifrotzi, v'et Adonai taritzi, al yad ish ben partzi, v'nismecha v'nagila, lecha dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nikabela. We rise facing our doors. Boi v'shalom ateret v'alah, gam b'simcha u'v'tzola, toch emunei am segula. Boi chala, lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nikabela. May be seated. And I'm taking a liberty and inserting a song between the Lecha Dodi and the Psalm for Shabbat. In a moment, the song is HaMalach HaGoel, and I want to explain why I'm selecting this song. The song comes to us from a grandfather. And it's a grandfather looking into the future as he blesses his two grandsons. The name of the man is Jacob. And Jacob had seen his son presumably killed by a wild animal. And only much, much later, 20 years later, does he learn that the son, having been sold into slavery by the brothers, has arisen to this great height, literally the viceroy of Egypt. And Jacob comes from Canaan down to Egypt to see his son and to meet his grandchildren, Ephraim and Menashe in Hebrew, pronounced Manasseh in English. I have not yet been blessed with being a grandparent. I look to my mom and my in-laws as guides. I look to many of you as guides when I see you interacting with your grandchildren. I think Jacob is looking into his own future when he sees his grandsons before him. And what would a grandpa say to his grandsons? Only the purest of all love and protection. May you be safe, may you flourish, may you grow. And Jacob then says, Hamalach Hagoel Oti. Once I was in great crisis, and an angel came to me and protected me, Mikorah, from all wicked and bad and evil things. And I call forth for that same angel which protected me to protect you, these my little ones. Regardless of how little, how young, or how tall, or how small those grandchildren, such a prayer from a grandpa who once remembers how he was vulnerable, looking into the future through the eyes and the touch of his own grandchildren, never goes out of style. And in these very confused times, both in terms of the household of Israel, the land of Israel, and Jews all over the world, and for many more reasons, I want to hear a grandparent bless grandchildren. And the kicker is that I fell in love with this melody because I once came across it about 8 years ago when I heard it sung by a group of high school seniors on a group known as USY Nativ. It's a breakpoint between high school and college. So the first minute and a half, and yes, the Hebrew may not be exactly familiar, but listen, Hamalach Hagoel Oti, the angel who protected me is going to bless these little ones. And hear the beautiful melody of a choral group of high school seniors quoting a grandparent's blessing of grandchildren, and may that prayer apply to all of us. Hamalach Hagoel Oti.
V'shem
in the days ahead, and may they be soon. Let us hear the prayers of our children, our grandchildren, our teenagers, calling forth with that intensity of a love brought into the world by grandparents. And now a psalm for Shabbat on page 27. Mizmor shir leyom haShabbat, tov lehodot laDonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, lahagid baboker chasdecha, ve'emunatcha balelot, alei asor v'alei nabel, alei higayon bechinor, Mizmor shir liyom haShabbat, tov lodot laDonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ki simach tanenoi b'falecha, b'maaseh yadecha aranen, magalo maasecha Adonai ma'od, amku machshabotecha, Mizmor shir liyom haShabbat, tov lodot laDonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. The arrogant do not understand, the fool does not comprehend this. The wicked flourish like grass, and every evildoer blossoms, only to be destroyed forever. But you, Adonai, are exalted for all time. Surely your enemies, Adonai, surely your enemies will perish. All who commit evil will be scattered. As a wild bull raises up its horn, you raised my head high and anointed it with fresh oil. As my enemies gather against me, my gaze remains steady. My ears listen and hear. The righteous flourish like the date palm, thrive like a cedar in Lebanon, planted in the house of Adonai. They flourish in our God's courtyards. In old age they remain fruitful, still fresh and bountiful, proclaiming Adonai is upright, my rock in whom there is no flaw. Oh, Yinuvum Beseva, the Shainim, Rananim you, Lagi Kisharnoi, Turvalotobo. We rise now, the Borchu, page 39a. Page 39a. Baruch Hu et Adonai Amavorach. Baruch Adonai Barak Leolam Vaed. As we're seated, we continue the first bracha in English. Baruch Adonai, our God, sovereign of time and space, whose word brings the evening dusk, whose wisdom opens the gates of dawn, whose understanding changes the day's division, whose will sets the succession of seasons and arranges the stars in their places in the sky, who creates day and night, who rolls light before darkness and darkness from light, who makes day pass into night, who distinguishes day from night. Adonai Tzvaot is your name, living and ever-present God. May your rule be with us forever and ever. Baruch Adonai, who brings each evening's dusk. El Chai v'Kayam, Tamid Yimloch Alein Olam Voed, Baruch Atah Adonai, Hamariv Aravim. Page 40. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael, Amcha Havta, Torah Mitzvot, Chukim Umishpatim, Otanu Limadita, Al Ken Adonai Eloheinu, B'Shachveinu V'Kumeinu, Nasiach B'Chukecha, V'Nismach B'Divrei Toratecha, Ova mitzvotecha leolam voed, ki Hashem chayenu ve'orech yameinu ve'orech yameinu u'b'hem negei yomam v'layla ve'avatachal testimim olamim Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. Page 41. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavto et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha ve'ayu hadavarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantav levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha bebeitecha v'alektecha v'aderech v'shachpecha v'kumecha v'kishartam la'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha v'ktavtam al mezuzot beitecha v'visharecha. A moment of silence on page number 42. Adonai Elohechem emet. In a moment, we're going to go on a little bit of a journey, a trip, singing along with Craig Taubman. And after that, we're going to sing the Mi Chamocha. And you know, the Mi Chamocha is really a song that reminds us that we've just completed one part of a trip, having crossed over the sea, and Pharaoh's pursuing army is no longer a threat. So Mi Chamocha is a song of moving forward. Well, we're all in need of a song that reminds us that even when we feel alone, even when we feel as if we are on a narrow bridge, we are never alone. We're escorted by other Jews, by the power of Jewish history, by the promise of the breach of the covenant, and by God. Journey.
It's only a journey across a very narrow bridge. It's a journey. You don't know where you're going. Can't hide from it. Don't dare fear from it. It's a journey across a very narrow bridge. Kol ha'olam kulo gesher, gesher tzar meho. Kol ha'olam kulo gesher, gesher tzar meho. if you're lucky, you'll like the one you use. It's a journey across a very narrow bridge. Kol ha'olam kulo gesher, gesher tzar me'od. Kol ha'olam kulo gesher, gesher tzar me'od. And there will be moments when wrongs seem to be right. You must cross the darkness before you reach the light. It's a journey across a very narrow bridge. Kol ha'olam kulo gesher, gesher tzar me'od. Kol ha'olam kulo gesher, gesher tzar me'od. Kol ha'olam kulo gesher, gesher tzar me'od. Kol ha'olam kulo gesher.
The next time you mentally conjure up that image of crossing the Sea of Reeds, instead of the big expanse that perhaps I carry in my head of the Charlton Heston experience, picture that we're on a very narrow bridge across that sea. And yet all the Jewish people in the world today, plus, of course, are as a result of crossing a very narrow bridge. We've done it before, and we're going to continue to cross that bridge. And we will be safe, and we will move on into the future. Mi chamocha on page 44. Mi chamocha bo'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh norati lot ol seifele malchutecha ra'u v'necha bokei yom lifnei Moshe zeili anu v'yamru Adonai yimloch la'olam va'ed v'ne'emar ki fadorna et Yaakov ugalom yachazak mimenu baruch ata Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. In the place of the traditional Hashkivenu prayer this evening, I share a song with you by Dan Nichols. He's put the Hashkivenu to a bit more of a contemporary format. Hashkivenu, as you know, means, oh God, help us all to lay down this evening and have a sense of peace and reassurance, freedom from anxiety and fear. And that's what we need. And so as the song comes from Ershul out into your hearts, may you take hold of it and bring it inside yourself. May you relay it to others as well. And we're all united in that same hope. Hashkivenu, may we all lay down, especially our Jewish people, people of all backgrounds in Israel right now. Hashkivenu.
Eloheinu Shalom. of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkiveinu Adonai, Eloheinu Shalom, V'hamidenu Malkeinu Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashkiveinu Adonai, Eloheinu Shalom, V'hamidenu Malkeinu
The top of 46. V'shamro b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam barit olam. V'shamro b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam barit olam. B'nei uvein b'nei Yisrael ot hiliolam, ot hiliolam, ot hiliolam. V'shamro b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam barit olam. Ki shesha yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim v'et ha'aretz v'shamro b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam barit olam. Uvayom hashvi Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash. V'shamro b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam barit olam. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, Amen. Be'olma dibrachutim chutei v'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael bagala bagala uv'izman karif v'imero, Amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevarach v'alam Yolmei Almaya Yitbarach Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpar V'yishma V'yinaseh V'yadar V'yitale V'yitalal Shemei Dekudesha V'rechu Leila Min Kol Berchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Da'amiran B'olma V'imero, Amen. You're invited to rise at this time. The traditional Amida from pages 47 to 52, or a private prayer. And obviously each and every one of you is in a private home, but we're all united together by our shared focus. And this evening, I want you to send through your mind, through your focus, your private prayer, and see yourself as standing at the kotel. Here's the kotel before each one of us. And you see these cracks and crevices in the presentation of that beautiful artwork. And you see the door now slightly ajar to receive your own prayers. Send forth your message to God, to the nation of Israel, to Jewish people all over the world, to individuals whom you may know. Send forth your own private thoughts at this time, and may all your prayers, that's my prayer this evening, may all your prayers into that ark, into that holy realm. A few moments of silence. In a moment, the full Kaddish on page number 54. If you're still davening or lost in thought, please continue to do so, but we shall continue for a moment, and you'll join in. Your voice and your thoughts will merge with those of us. 54, the full Kaddish.
Iskadav, Iskadashime, Rabal, Bialma, de Brokurisavia, Makusavika, Konav Yamakonika, Yedika basis Roebaka, always Makari, Yamaru, Amen, Yeheshme, Rabal, Magorak, the Olam, Meo Maya. Isparakvi, Istabakvi, Isparvis, Romavius, Nasavius, Adarvis, Alevis, Alos, made the Kudashop, Reaku, Lay Lam, and Cobra Casa, Vishirasa. Tuspakasa, Vadekamasa, Dami, Rumbi, Homovi, Yamru, Amen. Tiskabel, Salosa, Hundus, Ahon, Takobi, Yisrael, Kadam, Avu, Hon, Tibismai, Yamaru, Amen. Yeheslam, Rabba, Menshemai, Yimalena, Yaka, Israel, Yamaru, Amen. O Seshalom, Bimramo, Hu Yaseshalom, Alena, Yaka, Israel, Yamaru, Amen.
Shkoyach Neil. When you and I are a little bit under the weather, we probably snuggle, maybe under a favorite blanket or a quilt. Some of us might have a pillow. You might be on the bed or on the couch, maybe a favorite pair of pajamas. And after hopefully only a day or two, we come back to ourselves, and then we get back and we're dressed again. And perhaps some of you have a favorite blanket or a favorite quilt to snuggle with And there might even be an association that this blanket or this quilt or this pillow is something you can hold close to you, even if you're not physically sick, but when you just need a little bit of extra nurturing. I'm sharing with you a tapestry that was made by Debbie Michelle, who lived here 3 decades ago. And some of you may have heard me speak about this, but today I want to share it from a different point of view. Some of us were blessed to know Debbie and her husband Sam and the 2 wonderful kids, Noah and Doreen, and circumstances unfortunately drew them away. And while Debbie was here, not only did she make this beautiful tapestry, but she touched the lives of many of us with our children, and then we, our Shul members, very artistic and very creative. And as you see looking at this tapestry, you have here the pillar of fire and the pillar of smoke. And at the bottom you have the chains of slavery and the waves of water crossing the Sea of Reeds. It's the story of the Exodus, the story of Passover, you might say. And over here we have a mountain wreathed in smoke and fire with the Aseret Dibrot, the 10 great words. Of course, this is standing at Mount Sinai. And we have a Jewish holiday, which is just upcoming. It's going to be Sunday evening. We'll talk about Shavuos in just a few minutes as an announcement. So we have here a tapestry handmade for all of us to share, enfolding us in the excitement of liberation and the anticipation of standing at a place where each and every one of us as a Jew mattered, where each and every one of us was given a gift, the gift of standing tall, bearing the privilege and responsibility of bringing law and justice and righteousness and loving kindness into the world. That's Mount Sinai. And of course, this is the counting of the Omer, 49 days spanning the second Seder and standing at Shavuos. But tonight I'm looking at this as a tapestry handmade by somebody within our Shul community, within which each and every one of us can find a sense of comfort and reassurance. The holiday of, again, freedom from slavery, and the holiday of anticipation of standing at Sinai. And it was just a few days ago, as we are coming into the last week leading to Mount Sinai, that we learned of rockets and attacks against our people. And many in our shul have family members and friends in Israel. So when we see the news of rocket attacks, of people having to flee for shelter, people for taking cover, when we see announcements of the Magen David Adom and emergency personnel running in to rescue and protect people, for us, it's not merely an experience of watching the news. This is affecting our lives, our families, our loved ones in a very real manner. It's not abstract. This strikes us all close to home. And we're nearly at Mount Sinai, which is the oasis in time wherein you and I are privileged to stand next to God, and God is saying, it's all right. We're all going to be in this together. And a week before Shavuot, we see such terrifying attacks. And we see violence exploding throughout many parts of Israel. And you and I can't fix this. You and I can offer our prayer and our hope, and you and I can reach out to people whom we know and love, the real people halfway around the world, with our phone calls and our video messages and our texts. And once the phone call or the video conference is terminated, we're left holding a blanket, cuddling under a pillow, crying, and wondering where our loved ones are. until the next phone call. And I'm wondering, what can you and I do as a community? Because it seems that we are powerless and we have so little at our beck and call. It's not quite enough to only snuggle under a favorite blanket or to hold a tapestry upon us. And I think of this week's Torah reading, which begins tomorrow. In Hebrew, it's called Bamidbar, which means in the wilderness. And it might be that this Torah reading, which heralds the entire fourth book of the Torah, also called Bamidbar, in the wilderness, is a foreshadowing for the people of Israel are slowly getting ready to break camp and leave Mount Sinai and move into an uncertain future towards the promised land. They have no idea where they're going. They have no idea what to anticipate. They have no idea of the challenges before them. Will there be hostile forces or will it be smooth sailing? And then curiously, or perhaps very importantly, a census is taken. And that's why the fourth volume of Torah in English is called Numbers. And the census spells out every single person in the tribe of Reuven, the tribe of Shimon, the tribe of Judah, Issachar, Zvulun, Gad, Asher, Dan, Naphtali, all the way through. And then there's the separate counting for the tribe of Levi. Every Jewish person matters along the journey into the unknown future. It's specified to a punctilious detail. In fact, if you read it, it might seem a little bit even monotonous, or shall I say boring. But when every individual matters, it's not boring. Because one person, as you all know, the very famous teaching in the Talmud, is like an entire world. So tonight, as I put down this tapestry, and I'm still thinking of all the people whom we know and the people whom we don't know, I'm reminding myself that as all of us here in Mobile, the U.S., in Eretz Yisrael, and everywhere else beyond, we're all walking into an uncertain future. But we need to see ourselves as a united community where every single Jewish individual counts. And the promise is that God counts every single Jew as well. Each one of us enfolded in an embrace of love and of commitment between God and herself, God and himself, God and all of us. May you and I take hold of that very important message from Torah directed to each and every one of us this year, this day, as we're getting ready for Shavuot. May we know that each of us counts. May we be blessed with confidence and the ability to reassure one another. And please know that you and all of yours are loved. We rise for Kiddush. Page 55, you have the Siddur. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagofen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'yahava uv'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maaseh b'reshit ki hu yom techila l'mikra Kodesh Zecher Litziat Mitzrayim Kiva Biotanu Vacharta, Biotanu Kidashta, Mikol Amim, Veshabbat Kochecha, Biahava Varatzon, Hinchaltanu, Baruch Atarnoi, Mekadesh HaShabbat. I hope you have a bit of bread for the hamotzi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. And we rise for the Aleinu on page number 56. Page 56, Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol latet gedula liotzer breshit shelo asanu kagoye haratzot velo samanu kimishpachot adama shelo sam chalkeinu kahem vegor aleinu kachol hamonam V'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu shehu noteh shamayim v'yosei haaretz u'moshav yekaro b'shamayim mimal u'shrinatu zo begavei meromim hu Eloheinu enod Emet malkeinu evezulato kakatu b'torato yodata ayom v'ashevota elavavecha ki Adonai hu Elohim b'shamayim mimal v'al haaretz mitachat enod Kakatu b'toratecha Adonai yimloch l'olam va'ed v'nemar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yihye Adonai echad u'shemo echad. And at this moment in time, as a shul, we will offer the Kaddish, and we will mention the names of our loved ones. If you know of someone in your own life and you wish to offer that person's name aloud in your own home, please mention that person's name aloud as we recite this list of names. And we remember on this Shabbat, Rose Lipschitz, Louis Liebeskind, Erwin Meisler, Joseph Miller, Henry Morningstar, Lieb Dannenberg, Molly Goldstein, Willie Lips, Eli Buckman, Fanny Robinson, Arthur Olinsky, Helena Lubell, Marcus Gerhardt, Emmanuel Gelberman, Bertha Berlin, Edward C. Smith, Meyer Jacoby, Chai Rachel Schultz, Mike Mazel, Claire Burson, Saul Birkin. We remember Leon Eplin, Paul Buckstein, and we're thinking of all those people who have been taken from us recently in Israel, both in the terrifying accident on Lag BaOmer and Meron, and these most recent loss-filled hours. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba. Amen. Be'olma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute. B'chayechon u'b'yomechon u'v'chaye d'chol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imeru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mivarach la'olam u'lolmei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudusha b'richu la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran ba'olma v'meru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'meru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'meru. Amen. May there be peace upon all of us, from one to the next, to the next, to the next. We will conclude in just a minute with a final song prayer, but a couple of reminders. Tomorrow, of course, Shabbos morning, services from 10 to about 11:15 or so. And tomorrow evening, Havdalah, Alabama Community Havdalah. It's on Zoom. You all have the passcode and the email that went out last night. And Sunday is Shavuos, and we're standing at Sinai. And you hopefully also received the email notifying you that we have two special guests joining us for Shavuos. Sunday night, we have Turia Stark. She's a wonderful, talented woman, and she's studying to be a cantor. And she'll be joining us, just us, a special Zoom service Sunday evening from 7 to 7:30. You have the login information, and she'll be singing special pieces for us as we remind ourselves that we're standing at Mount Sinai. And that's Sunday evening from 7 to 7:30. Monday, in honor of the first day of Shavuos, we're going to be studying together in our Tanakh format, and it's the Tanakh group which has been studying a certain section of the Bible, as you know, but it's open to everyone in our shul community to join in via Zoom, and we'll be studying a special text in honor of Shavuos, and that's just 12 to 1 on Monday on Zoom. And on Tuesday, we are welcoming Rabbi Scott Kramer from the Conservative Shul in Montgomery, Agudath Israel Eitz Chaim. And we're also welcoming that synagogue. He'll be teaching a very short lesson, and he and I will be leading a Yizkor service to which we're all invited, because as you remember, on the second day of Shavuos, we say Yizkor thinking of our loved ones. And this past year has really been changed for all of us. One good thing is that we've become much closer with the community in Montgomery, and they with us, and we've all grown as a result. So I hope you join us for Tuesday Yizkor, again from 12 to about 12:45 or so on Zoom. Pardon me. Remember, the shul office is closed Monday and Tuesday because it is Shavuos. And that's it for right now. It's enough for you to remember. We're going to conclude with Shalom Rav, shared with us by Craig Taubman. It's a blessing of peace. May there be great peace in your life and in all of our lives. Shalom Rav.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Hamcha ve'al kol yoshvei Tevel. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Hamcha tasim לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך ועל כל יושבי תבל. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. כי אתה הוא מלך אדום לכל השלום. כי אתה הוא מלך אדום לכל השלום. שלום רב על ישראל עמך ועל כל יושבי תבל. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך בית ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך ועל כל יושבי תבל. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם.
Until we see each other again, maybe soon. Litrot, Shabbat Shalom.